I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all our stakeholders, employees, dealers, suppliers, and even all the other stakeholders for their continued support, which has helped us maintain business continuity during these uncertain times. While we have restarted our production facilities and they have ramped up slowly over the month, the recovery in replacement demand has been significantly better than expectations. However, we remain cognizant of the risks in current times and continue to prioritize safety of our employees over any other business factor. We've taken a number of measures to ensure safety of the team even as we ramp up our activity levels. We've released health and safety guidelines, established preventive controls, and undertaken proactive testing for frontline teams and employees with symptoms and any travel history. We've taken additional insurance cover and are exploring ways to facilitate even e-consultant for any emotional challenges faced by our employees. Moving on to the financial results, the consolidated net sales for the quarter stood at rupees 28.3 billion, a decline of 34% over the same quarter last year, and a decline of 20% on a sequential basis impacted by COVID-19. This is to be seen in light of a scenario of April, where in India everything was at a standstill. The Indian operations, in light of that, registered a higher decline of 43% on a year-on-year basis, whereas the decline in Europe operations was at 28%. The consolidated EBITDA for the quarter stood at rupees 2.4 billion, a margin of 8.3% compared to 11% in the same period last year, and a 13% plus in the preceding quarter. Despite the steep decline in top line, we were able to restrict the margin drop on the back of effective cost containment and optimization measures, and also reasonable input costs. In fact, some of the key learning and measures of this period will continue well beyond the current COVID-19 crisis and would help us further optimize our fixed costs. For example, we've been able to achieve significant reduction in controllable SG&A expenses through digital launches, renegotiation of contracts, and reduction in consultant engagement. We are focusing on rationalization and optimization of real estate costs across our key markets. We are doing a lot of work around digitization and online collaboration, which would not only help us prepare for the future, but also help us in bringing down costs like travel, which are a significant component. While we acknowledge the fact that these are tough times for the employees, we are cognizant of the need to balance out the company needs, and hence all increments have been deferred in the current year, and at the top level there have been salary cuts. Similarly, we are also working on the supply chain side to not only optimize freight and storage costs, but to also reduce investment in working capital. There has been significant reduction in inventory levels across operations. All in all, the examples could go on, but as an overall team, we are determined that we come out of this pandemic not only surviving this, but emerging stronger from this. Coming to the balance sheet, despite subdued financial performance, we've been able to strengthen our balance sheet with cost control measures, tight control over CapEx, and a timely equity raise. Our net debt decreased to rupees 52 billion from rupees 60 billion from the previous quarter. The net debt to EBITDA for the consolidated operations was at 3.1 times. We are also very comfortable on the liquidity position given the team's excellent effort on both sales collection and the borrowings that we have done in recent times, including the equity raise. Moving on to the India operation, the sales for the quarter were rupees 17.3 billion, a decline of 43%, as I mentioned earlier, over the same period last year, and 27% on a sequential basis. While the top line decline was almost entirely due to disruption in economic activity due to COVID-19, we would like to highlight two significant takeaways from the quarter. One, April saw negligible sales volume. Thereafter, things have improved significantly, and in fact, we've been very positively surprised by the demand momentum, especially in the replacement segment. Secondly, despite the current demand environment, pricing environment has remained fairly stable. Between the segments, the OEM started its recovery from near zero levels in April. Still, the volumes in June were significantly below June 19 levels. However, as mentioned before, we've been very pleasantly surprised by the momentum in the replacement segment. Overall, for the quarter, the replacement volumes were down 25% compared to same period last year. But we ended the quarter in June with a 10% volume growth over the same period last year, to give an idea of how strong the demand was. In terms of product segment, farm segment performed the best, followed by truck segment. Passenger car tire segment saw relatively subdued recovery initially, but has started doing very well now. We also saw good traction in the two-wheeler tire segment. We anticipate that we've had market share gains in the replacement segment. The tire imports were put under a restricted list, which would be a further boost for the domestic industry going forward. With this, we are looking at potential entry into the premium segment of tires for cars and two-wheelers. Our motorcycle radial tires continue to gain traction. For the Indian operation, the EBITDA for the quarter stood at rupees 1.9 billion, a margin of 10.8% as compared to 11.6% for the same period last year and 14.4% in the preceding quarter. The net debt decreased from rupees 48 billion to rupees 41 billion, and this helped us, despite the fall in absolute EBITDA, maintain our overall leveraging ratio. In terms of outlook, we expect the demand momentum in replacement to remain strong. We saw similar trends in July, where the replacement segment continues to do well. In fact, in July, we have registered a volume growth in almost all product segments. Given the strong recovery, we are making sure that within the guidelines, our plants are able to produce enough tires, and supply chain is able to deliver the tires across the country to service the customers and benefit from the strong replacement demand. We are seeing signs of recovery in the passenger car OE segment, and there is a strong pickup in the activity levels going forward. So we are seeing a significant recovery in the top line as we go forward, which would also give us the operating leverage and help in margin recovery together with tight cost control. Moving on to the Europe operation, sales for the quarter were euro 90 million, a decline of 28% over the same period last year, again largely on account of COVID-19. We were able to gain market share in this environment, both in the TBR and the PCR segment. The European market, for example, for the passenger cars declined by 32% in this quarter. The EBITDA for the European operations for this quarter were at euro 1 million, 1.1% compared to 6% for the same period last year. This was largely attributable to the loss of operating leverage. Even in Europe, our liquidity situation is healthy on the back of measures like reduction in capex, improvement in collection, and efficient working capital management. We've also made significant progress on our intended specialization of the Dutch operations, including the manufacturing operations there. We reached an agreement with the Works Council in the second week of July, and AVBV management will now start the work on preparing for implementation of the DIPI. The consequence of this would be 528 redundancies in the Dutch operations in the last quarter of this fiscal year. This would go a long way to improving the cost competitiveness of the European operations and showing us a path to recovery of the profitability level. We were again positively surprised by the Reifen operations, our German distribution operation. They registered a growth of 14% Y-on-Y for the quarter. EBITDA margins for the quarter were at nearly 5%, similar levels as last year. In terms of outlook of the European operation, we expect the volume recovery to continue, and we should have a significant volume growth sequentially. This should provide us the operating leverage. All costs continue to be looked at minutely and cut or controlled as much as possible. So with an improvement in top line, stable RM prices and cost control measures, we should see a margin recovery even in our European operation. Thank you. That's all from our side, and we would be happy to take your questions.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Ashutosh Tiwari from Equirus Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello sir. Congrats on decent numbers in this environment.
Thanks, Ashutosh.
Just want to understand, you talked about this cost saving initiative that they have taken. Just want to understand what part of it can sustain, and can you quantify that improvement in, say, margins, say, in FY 22 or 23 basically, because of this cost cut initiative that we have taken?
So Ashutosh, it is difficult to, as of now, given a very fluid situation, to say how much of it remains. Now, for example, travel costs, which are the simplest thing with the way of digital ways of working getting established, travel costs would come down, and a lot of it would be continued going forward. Digital launches of products, which we've experienced for the first time and we are rolling it out across operations, will continue. Some of the dealer conferences, etc., would be reduced. But it's still not a situation which has reached a stable situation, and hence to quantify it for FY 22 or 23 is difficult at this.
Okay. So you talked about travel cost. If I look at the annual reports of last year, and also roughly 1% was travel cost at console and standard on both the levels. So this can come down substantially going ahead?
This year, definitely, given everything. And then going forward, there will be a stable level which should be lower than the levels that you have talked about. Certain amount of travel would be there. You cannot replace the face-to-face interaction and the human touch. So we would not eliminate it completely, but it would come down substantially.
And A&P also will come down, like you said, because of these digital initiatives and all.
That's correct. Especially the product launches, the A&P related to promoting of the product, etc., would come back as we reach normal levels. That's the decision taken on brand push, brand building. But clearly our experience with digital launches, for example, we used to participate in tire fairs, etc., that would come out. The product launch that we did for Europe, which was planned actually around the time COVID hit us, the digital launch was done at 1/5 the cost.
Okay. Okay. And sir, lastly, in terms of capex that we are looking ahead for next 1 or 2 years, so just to understand what part of phase 1 AP is remaining now, and secondly, on the expanded capacity post phase 1 gets completed, what was the utilization level, say, in FY20? So FY20 volumes upon the expanded capacity post AP plant.
AP plant is still in its infancy stage. We've started the passenger car tire production. The truck tire production has still not started. We expect to start commercial production of truck tires in September.
Okay.
It will then continue to ramp up. So there is no further change in the capex outlook from what we gave earlier. We've reduced capex by 400 crores this year. The capex and the AP plant ramp up would be completed in FY22.
Okay.
Going on from there, it would of course depend on demand, but I can safely say that FY23-24 there should be only maintenance capex, and we should be strongly free cash flow positive.
Okay. And so, what is the utilization level currently at the current capacity in, say, PCR and TBR?
So currently, if we look at June, across our 4 plants in India, we would be at about 2/3 capacity utilization, so about 66-67%. If I give you the numbers for the quarter, they would be very misleading because
I understand that. That's why I asked on
started with under 10% in.
Okay, I got that point. Okay. Okay, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Subrat Dwivedi from SBI Life. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir, and thanks for taking my question. You mentioned that in the replacement market segment, there has been a significant improvement in June. So just wanted to understand which segment is this demand coming from? Is it the large fleet operators? Is it the kind of used vehicle players who are contributing to this demand?
The demand has been so strong, as I mentioned, on the truck side, the volume growth in June has been upwards of 15%. So it's been fairly all across in the replacement segment on the truck side. The only large segment where we in June were lower compared to previous.
Hello?
Yeah. So it's been fairly all across in the replacement segment.
Okay. So in terms of natural rubber prices, so how has it been for you in this quarter?
One thing to note is that a large part of our raw material basket was also based on the inventory that was already there when operation came to a standstill. So for natural rubber, the decrease was only about 1 rupee vis-a-vis last quarter. Our average consumption price was rupees 139.
Okay. And capex, you mentioned it largely remains in line, around 400 crores decrease as you had expected last time. So on an absolute basis, it will be around 1,200-1,300 crores for this year.
For India operations, the figure that we gave was 1,050 crore. And for the European operations, the capex for the year would be a little under 200 crores. So yes, on a consolidated basis, your number is correct.
Okay. And one last question on the debt. You mentioned the net debt levels, but if you can also give the gross debt and the cash position at a console level.
So the gross debt number for at the end of the quarter was rupees 58 billion.
Okay. And at standalone level?
Gross debt?
Yeah.
Just a minute. My apologies. The gross debt at consolidated was rupees 75 billion, and at the Indian operations was rupees 58 billion.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Joseph George from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity.
Morning, Joseph.
My first question. Hi, good morning. My first question is on the redundancy that you talked about in the Netherlands operations. Could you give us a sense of what would be the cost savings of being able to let go of 500 to 600 headcount, just to get a sense of how things would look going ahead in terms of employee cost?
Joseph, the process is fairly elaborate. Now that the number has been finalized recently, just a few weeks back, we are now going through the exact legal procedure to identify the specific people. Broadly, you could take it that our average cost per person in the overall Dutch operations is about a little under 100,000 euro per person per annum. So savings would be, at least on the manpower side, somewhere in the 40 to 50 million.
Wow, that's a good number. Yeah, that's great. And second question, Gaurav, was you said that you're seeing a big improvement as far as truck and bus replacement goes. But as analysts, we struggle a bit to understand where this demand is coming from, especially in an environment where the economy has not become fully functional, and the freight generation and the utilization of the truck fleet that is there in the country is not at optimum levels. And simple logic tells us that if trucks are not running at optimum levels, then the amount of replacement demand that is generated, or the wear and tear that is generated for tires, should be lower than what we would like. And even in that context, we are seeing strong growth in truck and bus replacement. Can you provide some insight as to how exactly this is? It's a little counterintuitive. That's the reason I'm asking.
Fair question, Joseph. And this has been tossed around enough, that is this pent up demand or this is sustainable demand? And as you would accept that it is still early days to see. April from negligible level, May also, as things started opening up, we've had half the quarter which was pretty much nothing. And then suddenly, from a pickup situation to a June situation where I'm told you that the volume numbers are 15 to 20% up on the truck side, farm side more than 50% up, was a very strong surprise on the replacement side. July numbers, again, vis-a-vis July last year, continued to be strong. Given the level of overall economic activity, yes, it's a bit surprising, but it's also together with the fact that the OE levels on the truck are negligible. We can only say that nobody buys truck tires if they are not needed. So if we are selling that much, and we believe we've had market share gains, we are better off than our competitors, but there is still signs of strong economic activity of goods being moved around in the country based on what we have seen in June and July.
Okay, got it. And last question, Gaurav, could you give us a sense of what the OE truck and bus contribution to revenues in standalone was last full year?
OE truck. I would need to take out the data, but roughly truck overall is about 60% of our operation. And within that, OE is about 25%. So 15% of our overall revenue comes from truck and bus OE at a very broad level.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nishit Jalan from Axis Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, Gaurav. Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations on decent set of numbers. Sir, I have two questions. Firstly, on the CapEx side, I wanted to understand, I think our total CapEx outlay in AP was around 38 billion rupees. Just wanted to understand how much have we already incurred till FY20 and what will we be incurring in FY21?
So in FY20, again, I would not have ready figures immediately, but I think we had already incurred 2,200 crores out of the 3,800 in AP, and out of the 1,050 of this year, the largest chunk is for AP, so 600 to 700 crores of the current year capex would go towards AP.
Okay. And you mentioned that in FY23-24 you would be incurring just about maintenance capex. Can I understand what is the maintenance capex level that you have in India and Europe?
In India, the maintenance capex is around 250-300 crores, depending on if any large maintenance comes up to not being there, like a mixer overhaul. And Europe, the maintenance capex would be again ranging between 150 to 200 crores.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is on the RM cost front. You talked about we have seen we are yet to see the full benefit of declining commodity cost, right? So just wanted to understand how should we look at RM cost basket in 2Q and 3Q?
So we expect RM cost basket in Q2 to further come down. You are right, we haven't seen the full benefit. Sequentially, there was a decline of 3%. We would expect another couple of percentage decline in the raw material cost in Q2. Q3, as of now, the expectation is that the levels would go up and would probably be back around the Q1 level.
Why is that? Which specific commodity has gone up?
Rubber, etc., has gone up, and even some of the other crude derivatives have shown a reversing trend in July.
Okay, thank you. And Gaurav, my last question is on the Dutch operations. You talked about redundancies and you talked about potential savings of euro 50 million, but it will not come at the same revenue level, right? We will need to cut down our capacity also over there. That's correct, right? And we will whether we will shift that capacity to India or to Hungary, how are you thinking on those lines?
So that production optimization, etc., as the European management now starts to roll it out, will happen. We don't need to set up any additional capacity, so there is no cost being incurred. The production of passenger car tires that is shifted from Netherlands will be shifted to Hungary and to India, depending on how optimization should happen on the manufacturing front.
So basically what I was trying to understand is the 50 million euro is not net savings. That cost, if we transfer the capacity from Netherlands to Hungary or to India, so your employee cost in these locations will go up, right? So essentially we are moving from a high cost location to a low cost location.
To some extent you are correct, because there will be manpower addition in AP. In Hungary, very little. So yes, the full entire savings may not be like to like of the manpower cost reduction in Netherlands, but there would be a substantial saving, and we expect the payback on this project to be about 2 years. So we expect a fairly strong recovery of profitability margins in Europe operations, and the benefit of this should start coming in from FY22 onwards.
Okay, thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pramod Amte from CGS-CIMB. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Gaurav.
Hi, Pramod.
Good EBITDA performance. First, wanted to know what is the extent of OE and replacement mix in this quarter, because both of them have been very diverse in growth profile.
Sure. So for the Indian operations, normally the OE business ranges from 20 to 30%, Last quarter, where OE was still under decline, was at 20. But if you look at Q1 FY20, the OE business was about 25%. For Indian operations, in this current quarter, it was a near 7%.
Sorry, you said OE was just 7%?
7% in Q1, which is the quarter gone by.
Okay. So in that sense, that should get normalized as we go forward in second and third quarter. Am I right? Is that fair assumption?
It will. A very large component of that, which is truck OEM, is recovering far slower. We've seen a very sharp recovery in passenger car OEM, and we should get there quicker. So getting back to the normalized levels of OE, not before Q3.
And the second question is with regard to the interest cost. Even though the net debt, as you indicated, seems to be coming under control, but on a QOQ basis, the interest cost spike is pretty steep, almost around 30%. What is that underlying factor? Is it still about working capital rates, or what is going wrong, and when you expect that to come back to a sequential decline profile?
One of the reasons, Pramod, there is nothing to do on the rates. We start money at competitive rates and as per our usual rate. Given where the situation was in March and as the situation hit us, the first priority of the company was to maintain liquidity. And hence we borrowed fairly quickly to be not caught up in a crisis on purely liquidity front. So through the quarter, we carried a fairly high level of debt, which we decided to have on our books as a safety cushion. And that obviously contributed to the interest expense going up. Normally, we would have borrowed at a much lower rate during the year, vis-a-vis a situation where we picked up all the debt and we would not be raising any debt for the balance of the year.
And the last one is in terms of your channel inventory. What is the normal channel inventory you have in India, and where is it against those normal inventory levels? Thanks.
Our inventory is reduced by almost 250 crores or about 7 days of sales. Depending on the level of sales, I would say the normal level would be at least inventory levels going up by 100 to 150 crores if we were to be at normal levels. The current levels of inventory are lower and have dipped, because of constraints at production, where we have to operate the plants within safety guidelines, and the demand being extremely strong. So it's a fairly tight rope right now where there are constraints on how much we can produce, and supply chain also has to ensure that material supply across the country is adequate.
Thanks and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Priya Ranjan from Antique Limited. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Gaurav.
Good morning, Priya Ranjan.
So, couple of things. One is on how much do you attribute the current growth is related to, say, channel inventory filling, because probably even in April and May, when the entire operation was locked down, I mean, the dealers might be still supplying some of the, their own inventory to probably the truck operators who were already operating due to, the essential services and all.
Again, difficult to get statistics, but I don't think the dealers were that low on inventory, and if anything in the current environment, dealers would tend to keep waiting rather than have money blocked up. So it was genuine demand, and as I mentioned, we have continued to see strong demand and growth over last year, even in July. So as of now, demand continues to hold on, but it is still early months. We are watching the situation actively to say what is the normal level of demand. Right now, replacement demand across product categories continues to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just another, the housekeeping question on the volume growth as well as the key raw material cost, if you can help us.
So natural rubber prices, as I mentioned, were 139 rupees a kg.
Yeah.
Synthetic rubber at rupees 105 per kg.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon black 66. And steel cord rupees 139.
Mm-hmm. And overall volume decline for this quarter, domestic as well as export, the Europe.
Overall, the entire revenue decline of 43% is essentially coming from volume. So the overall volume decline is 43%.
Okay. But and lastly, on the any sign you are seeing that the TBR versus bias tire, how is that trend panning out during the COVID time? The current time basically, because probably the one assumption is that probably people will go for little lesser cost tires, etc. And the truck operation, particularly also of the single fleet operators, is much higher than the larger fleet operators.
Your point is absolutely correct. So there's been a slightly higher amount of bias tires sold. It is still majority radial, but there's a couple of percentage points shifted towards bias. And that could also be a result of where the Chinese tires have stopped coming in.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of Europe, lastly on Europe, what kind of revenue run rate we can see now things are normalizing, and at what level we will be probably a bit break even? And
Europe, as I mentioned, we've seen a fairly normal July. We would expect to be at around 90% of normal levels in Q2. Unless there is some big second wave which comes. If we look at the current level of operation, we should be getting back to 90% of our usual level.
Okay. And any thought on break-even level at EBIT from the EBIT level?
We do not give out margin guidance, so I would not like to go there.
Okay, thanks. That's all from us.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shyam Sundar Sriram from Sundaram Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Gaurav. Good morning.
Hi Shyam.
Good morning. Gaurav, on the import restrictions in tires, what we understand is the government has made it mandatory to obtain licenses to import. So from a segment-wise perspective, we are given to understand the PCR segment has a higher import currently. Earlier it was TBR, now the PCR as a percentage is higher. And some of the larger, even organized players, Mr. Michelin, are also importing some SKUs into the country. Now, given all this, are you seeing any gains for the domestic incumbents, including us, because of this import restrictions that have been imposed now, and on the PCR segment as well as in the TBR segment? Thank you.
Sure. So yes, the import profile, Shyam, was very different. The TBR segment import was largely from China, and hence, barring small components of it, was largely a price factor that used to come in at the lower end. Whereas on the passenger car side, it was across the entire spectrum. The Chinese player component in it was small. Even all the higher end cars and some of the OEs stuck to their usual partner. But to correct one thing, the import percentage as a percentage of the overall market has always been higher for passenger cars vis-a-vis the truck segment. That was around 15%, whereas in the truck, at best it was reaching a double digit at its peak and then had come down with the anti-dumping duty. There are signs that there would be gains because some of the OEMs also, with this restriction, have started talking to us for fitment on the cars, and hence there would be larger gains on the passenger car segment for the domestic players. And we are seeing some signs of that already.
Okay. And in the aftermarket also, Gaurav, from PCR perspective on in the aftermarket side, is there any meaningful changes that you are seeing because of this import restrictions?
Yes, again, a lot of it used to get fitted on the taxi segment. We will begin to see gains. As I said, the pickup on the passenger car side was slower. Passenger car segment was one of the segments where we did not have volume gains in the replacement segment in the June quarter, but that itself is beginning to change as we enter the current quarter.
Understood, Gaurav. Thank you very much for that explanation.
Thank you.
And just one additional question, Gaurav, if I may. Now, there have been various levels of production disruption across the domestic players during the quarter, and because of all that and with the import restrictions that have been placed, are there any market share shifts in any segment that you're seeing on PCR, TBR, or the farm segment? Any market share shifts that are visible now in any segment?
It is too early to say. Our own internal estimates are that we've had market share gains in Q1 in the replacement segment, but the industry data has not yet come in, so I would not be able to give you conclusive data as of now.
Thank you. Shyam, we would request you to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions, as we have several participants waiting for their turn. Also, we would request the participants to please limit your questions to 2 per participant. The next question is from the line of Prateek Poddar from Nippon India Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So one question, could you just talk about the channel inventory as of now across segments, PCR, TBR, TBD?
Our own inventory across segments, as I mentioned, is low. I would not have data of how much of inventory the channels out there in the market are carrying. For us particularly, we are sitting on very low inventory in the truck segment, particularly truck radial and farm. We were okay at the end of the quarter on the passenger car inventory, given where the demand was. But that is also beginning to get extremely tight as we've had very strong pickup both in the OEM and the replacement segment in the July month.
And to get an indication of what low means, versus normalized levels, would you be down 30, 40, 50% or 0.5x? How should I think about this?
We would be down at least about 25% level.
Within your own, when you say your own inventory, right?
That is our own inventory.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Siddharth Bera from Nomura. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Morning, Siddharth.
Sir, morning. Sir, yeah, this on demand side again. So as you have indicated that July we have seen a very good growth. So just wanted to understand. I mean, the good means it is like about 10% only, or higher or lower. Any color if you can give, and how are you seeing the trends towards the end of July? Anything on that line?
I would not have it on a weekly basis, but July, the replacement volume growth, a difference vis-a-vis June that it has been on all the product categories. It's been slightly lower than June, so high single digits.
Okay.
Year on year.
Year on year. Okay, got it, sir. And the second, sir, on the commodity side again. So in this quarter, can you broadly indicate? I mean, my analysis is that if we had a normal quarter where we had not brought down the high cost inventory, would it be fair to say that nearly 200 to 300 bits our margins would have been better on the gross side in a normalized quarter for Q1?
We've, Siddharth, not run that analysis because we were sitting on inventory, so we could do that exercise and come back to you that if we had used up only the current raw material at the current prices, what would have been the margin impact. The fact is, as this thing hit us, there are some positives of it in terms of lower raw material prices. But we had to use up the inventory which was there in the system. The margin would have been more if we were not consuming the earlier inventory. What the quantum of it is not an analysis that I have ready.
Okay, sir. Got it. And lastly, I mean, given the current trends, I think synthetic rubber has come down very significantly, probably 15-20% compared to last quarter. So the complete benefit of that should be visible in Q2 onwards. Am I correct on that?
That's correct.
Thank you. Siddharth, we would request you to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions. Also, we would request the participants to please limit your questions to 2 per participant. The next question is from the line of Jinesh Gandhi from Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Please go ahead.
Hi, Gaurav. Quick question. In this quarter, considering that there was inventory built up because of the lockdown, which is distorting the reported gross margins. So if you can share what were the real gross margins for the quarter for both India and Europe, that will be helpful.
Jinesh, we'll have to get back to you. I would have to ask the team to do an analysis to take out the inventory effect.
Okay, but do you have gross margins say per kg or something of that sort, which might also give correct indication?
So we will have to get back to you.
Sure, no problem. And lastly, with respect to the European operations, did we get any benefit from the government, European governments for any support in European operations?
Yeah, we got about 6 million euro based, which in Netherlands largely. Overall was a little under 7, bulk of it in Netherlands, where as per the government scheme, depending on the revenue fall, which was in slabs, 90% of your wage bill was given by the government. So we got about 6 million euro as support against the wage bill in Netherlands.
Okay, got it. Thanks. I'll come back in queue.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amyn Virani from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Gaurav. Thanks for the opportunity.
Morning, Amin.
Morning. Actually, my question was on the passenger vehicle replacement, which you partly addressed. I'm not sure if you addressed the Europe thing also. So in Europe, our business is mostly passenger vehicle replacement. So what are the trends there? And because I'm assuming that riding as a whole has come down, whether it's improving or not, but it has come down. So what are the trends there, and how do you look forward? Because next quarter you will start, building inventory for winter tires also, as is the usual. So how are you looking at that?
So the passenger car market in Europe, they grew by 32%.
Yeah.
Our own market share, and I will just break it up into little. On passenger car Vredestein brand, we've gained 0.1% market share. So still in decimals, but we continue to make headway. Even our proportion of UHP or UUHP tires continues to go up. So that overall theme of focusing on Vredestein brand, overall theme of enriching the product mix of the UHP proportion towards a level which is where global majors operate continues, and we are continuing to make headway. We are slowly taking out the Apollo brand more and more and keeping it as a limited flanker brand in Europe and putting all our energies and A&P money behind the Vredestein brand.
Okay.
Okay. Understood. And like you said, in India, the replacement market in passenger vehicles was starting to come back in July. You're seeing similar trends in Europe, or is it different on the replacement market side? Because you mentioned
I don't have the data for July, but our own expectations and initial signs is yes. As I mentioned, in Europe, we expect that Q2 to be a level of 90% of last year. So that's a substantial recovery from a nearly 30% decline in the current quarter.
Okay. Great. I'll come back in the queue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ronak Sarda from Systematix. Please go ahead.
Hi, Gaurav. Thanks for the opportunity and congrats on decent set of numbers. Gaurav, first question, again on the India aftermarket demand. Is there any way to look at a geographical analysis of how the demand recovery has been, especially on the two-wheeler and PV passenger vehicle side? Are the top 10 or top 15 markets contributing equally to the growth, or is it largely driven by semi-urban and rural markets? And does this apply to TBR or the tire, CV tires as well, truck tires as well?
Fair question, Ronak. I would not have that level of analysis immediately. That would be available with the sales and marketing team who look at it. Broadly, what I have understood is that the demand revival has been more strongly led by the rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were wanting a little bit of more color and details in terms of which state, which part of the country, we will have to go back to the sales and marketing people, and the IR team can come back to you.
Sure. And does this kind of analysis work for TBR or TBB tires, or there's no point looking at geographical analysis?
No, we would have it product wise. The internal teams would be doing that analysis, and they would have data to say where the demand has been stronger product category wise.
Okay, perfect. I'll speak with Himanshu later. And second question on Europe. What would be the product mix during the quarter, and how different is that from, let's say, QOQ or YOY basis? Because all the global OEMs have commented that the premium segment have picked up ahead of your mass market segment. So any color on the European product segment?
Not a big difference in Europe. The passenger car segment, vis-a-vis the same quarter last year, went down by about 3%.
Okay.
A big drop was in the Space Master, which is an OE product, that fell by 4%. And we gained about 5% plus in the agricultural segment.
Okay.
So not the kind of dramatic shift that I talked about in the India business scenario, where OE fell from about 25 to 7.
Right.
But broadly a shift of 5% plus from passenger car to agri.
Okay. And the final question on the, when you say capacity utilization is almost 90-95% in Europe, this is again driven more by OE demand, or there is some pickup in the aftermarket there as well?
I said we expect it to be at 90% of last year in Q2, and this is largely replacement because we are still negligible in OE in Europe on the passenger car side. We do have a presence which is through Space Master and Agri, but a much larger proportion of our business in Europe is replacement, more than 80% plus. So the recovery is in there.
Thank you. The last question is from the line of Abhishek Jain from Dolat Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking my question. Sir, out of the total, out of the total gross debt of rupees 75 billion, foreign currency loan stands at around 32 billion. So just wanted to know that how much forex losses or M2M losses have you incurred in this quarter, and that has been added in interest costs, and how big hit you are expecting in the bottom line because of the rupee depreciation, and please throw some light on the hedging policy as well.
So all our foreign currency borrowing is completely hedged on day one. Even the interest rates that we use to take a decision is on a fully hedged basis. So we do not have any hit on the borrowing side, even though you give a significant quantum, because they have been 100% hedged. And our policy also is that all borrowings for Indian operations would be completely hedged. On the operational side of things, we hedge up at least a 50% of our operational exposure, and that's the call which is taken on a regular basis. So there is no large scare for us on that count. In general, we are a net importer, so weak rupee is not favorable for us as our raw material cost goes up. And to that extent, the raw material drop impact that I talked about of 3% is after taking into account the rupee depreciation. Otherwise, it would have been more.
So how much forex losses or M2M losses have you incurred in this quarter? Losses or gain? And is it added in the interest cost?
I will have to ask my accounts people to answer that. Ravi, you have an idea if there is any forex loss which is there in the interest cost?
No forex loss in the interest cost. We normally book it as separate line item. I'll confirm the amount exactly, but nothing clubbed in the interest cost.
So is it showing in the profit and loss account?
Yes, it's appearing in the profit and loss account.
Okay. Sir, my next question is related with the employee cost. Right now, the Apollo has around 18,000 permanent and contract employee worldwide. So just wanted to know what is the proportion for the manpower India versus Europe. As the employee cost for Europe is around 30% of the sales and 8% for the Indian business. So what is your plan to reduce employee expenses in medium to long term?
So the European total manpower would be, I think, close to 2,500. We've already talked about a significant reduction of manpower in our Dutch operations. So that number will come down by the 528. In India, where there is significant manpower across plants, which is also a function of different plants operating with different product categories and different technologies. There are plants set up in the 70s, the 90s, 2000, and now the latest. And as the technology keeps changing, becoming more modern, our latest plants would have significantly less manpower than the earlier plants. A certain amount of modernization as we go through maintenance capex or incremental capex is done, but it would not be an adequate return to try and modernize some of the biased plants. So you would keep seeing manpower reduction in Indian operations, or in the case of AP, the growth in manpower would not be as much as you see capacity being addition. But there's no target that I have as of now to say that the India manpower will come down from X to Y in next 2 years.
Thank you. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
So nothing further from our side. Thank you all. Stay safe. And if there are follow-up questions, I'm conscious that there were few people in the queue which we have not been able to take questions. Please do reach out to us and we'll address your questions. Thanks again.